Greetings my dears in love and light, I'm Nikki Sutton. What is tapping or EFT and what can it do for you? I've got Jenny here with me today and she's an EFT practitioner and she's going to be answering some of my questions on tapping and doing a demonstration. Now if you want to book a session with Jenny, the web address is right here and it's also in the description box below. So Jenny, can you tell me a bit about tapping and why it's useful for people?
Yes, okay, so tapping is also known as EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's been around for a long time, but it's only just starting to reach its tipping point really. There are two people that I found that have nailed the explanation for what's actually happening when you're tapping. Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is one of my favourite people because he manages to talk about the science in a way that a lot of people can understand. He describes that your body can either be in a healing state or in survival mode. So if you imagine like a long-term health condition like depression or anxiety, your body, kind of without realising, is kind of fighting itself. So you will be experiencing symptoms in your body and in your mind which are affecting you kind of non-stop. So as soon as you start to tap, your stress cortisol in your body comes down and it flips you over into a healing state. So as soon as you're starting to tune into your issue, it's impossible to be traumatized and healing at the same time. So in EFT we can focus quite deeply on negative emotion, whatever the issue is, sometimes going back into quite difficult memories. So obviously with your body in a healing state, a repatterning takes place in your body because you can't have that trauma going on and be healing at the same time. So that's my favourite explanation for what's going on. But also, it's not, when you think about all the issues that we have, it's not the things that happen to us. I think that we can actually get through anything. It's what we make it mean about us. And Carl Rogers, the American psychologist, nailed it when he said that, and it's a strange paradox, as soon as you accept the things that you can't accept, the issue just dissolves. Mm. So you can kind of see EFT as a way of neutralising the issues that you have, because when we've got something that we're not coping with, we're pushing it away and there's resistance. When you're tapping, the stress comes down and you just, you're more able to tune into your body. Mm. Yeah.
So that's what that does, the tapping tunes you into your body more. It
tunes you into your body. You're able to access your subconscious mind very easily, but most people think that's difficult to do or even scary. Mm. But actually it is very easy to do. When you're tapping, all you've got to do really is notice what you're thinking about. Mm-hmm. So everybody can notice what they're thinking about, and it actually happens throughout the day when you're not tapping. Mm-hmm. And when you're stressed as well, but we just are not getting the messages. So when you're experiencing the quiet of being in a session or tapping by yourself, you're just able to surface what's underneath in your subconscious, okay. Which is takes you to the core root of the issue.
Okay. So a lot of people use tapping for using affirmations at the same time, mm-hmm. But in this demonstration you're getting into healing deeper issues in the subconscious, helping to sort of bring them out and calm them and heal them, right?
Yes, some people are a bit nervous about actually saying a lot of negative stuff out into the universe, particularly if they're believers in the law of attraction. Mm. But it's basically putting out there how you're feeling. So rather than sort of hiding it away and pushing it down, it's okay to have all that stuff going on. We sort of have been trained as children that it isn't okay, so that's why we're pushing it down. So when you're actually saying it out loud, you're like, right, this is me, here I am authentically with my truth. And then when you're tapping, that's when the neutralising starts to happen, as Carl Rogers put it as well. You're starting to accept it. So you're not actually, when you're tapping, you're not actually bringing in that negative stuff. It's actually going out because you're accepting that it's okay. It's okay to have issues. it's okay to be depressed. All of that stuff just gets worse and is exacerbated by not looking at it and not saying it.
I see. So what are some of the places that we're tapping? It's meridian points, isn't it?
Yeah, well there's actually hundreds of meridian points all over your body, and there's been lots of different ways to do EFT, and there still is lots of different forms of EFT, and it can be quite confusing if you go online and try to investigate it. But most people will use the face and the upper body. So we have this point here, which is the karate chop point, and this is the point that is used to tune people in to the issue. And then we go to, and if you tap with me, Nikki, so you can see where they are. So just where your eyebrows start here, that's your eyebrow point. And then we go to the side of the eye there, just on the bone.
This finger?
Most people use 2 fingers, okay. Yeah. And then directly underneath your eye, also on the bone there. And then usually just with one hand under your nose, under your mouth. And then on your collarbone, there's that kind of U-shaped part of your body there. If you go an inch down and then an inch either side, you get 2 very sensitive indentations, and this is actually a lot of people's favourite point. It's very relaxing.
Feel that one.
yeah, a lot of people like that one. And then after this point, we usually go to under the arm and then on top of the head. And also there's another point directly in the middle here, which is a very powerful point. It's the thymus point, and it's connected to your heart area. And I like to use this point, as do quite a few therapists, sometimes just on its own for certain techniques. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. There's actually a lot of them, you know, there's not just one way of doing it. So just in conversational tapping, sometimes using this point will trigger somebody into crying, and sometimes that's quite immediate. So at the beginning of a session, we'll often just tap on this point to get hear about the issue and start to tune into it. So there's a number of things that might happen when you're tapping as well. You might experience different feelings in your body, which is just the energy moving. So tingling, sometimes it feels like a pain or just a sensation. It depends how sensitive you are. Sometimes people have a feeling of energy moving downwards, kind of like a feeling of being earthed. But then a friend of mine feels it going upwards, and then some people don't feel anything. But there's always something happening, whether you feel it or not. So you might feel quite intense negative emotion, and that will sometimes kind of feel heightened, and you might need to cry. Yawning as well is often a signal that something's happening. People often apologise for the yawning and say, I'm really sorry about that, but it's usually a good sign.
Awesome. Okay, so shall we begin then?
Okay.
All right, lovely. So this is the demonstration then of tapping. Here we go.
Okay, so have you got a sense of what you want to work on today, Nikki?
Yes, I think it would have to be speaking live in front of a group or an audience in particular. Now, I've been asked quite a few times to speak in front of audiences, and I've always declined. One time it was in front of a TV audience, and although I'm one to usually face my fears or anxieties, this is one that I'm just happy to leave. Maybe it's something I'm not going to be doing, I'm not destined to do, but it would be nice to have the option.
Okay, so if you just start to tap on that thymus point there, so we're going to try and tap all the way through, okay? Right, so the first thing I'm going to ask you is, how do you know that you've got this problem? So what's the feeling? So that's the feeling sort of in your body, and the instant sort of in that moment when you were asked to do that. How did you know there's no way I'm doing that? I'm not going to do that.
It's a feeling of going blind and deaf and forgetting everything I'm saying.
Okay. And do you have a sense of where this has come from?
Yeah, because it reminds me of a couple of instances in the past. mainly to do with sort of being humiliated, I think, very embarrassed.
Okay. So you say a couple of incidences. Is this kind of in adulthood or going back to childhood?
Childhood.
Okay. So which one of those times chronologically would have been the earliest? Because that's more likely to be a core issue.
Okay, the one where I had to stand up in front of the class and do a presentation when I was about 9.
Okay, yeah.
So it's quite a literal one.
And this is something that probably most people could identify with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was not nice because it was very humiliating because I was ill prepared compared to everyone else. So.
Okay. And do you know that as a fact, or that's how you felt? You felt that?
Oh, that was a fact.
Okay.
Because my mind went blank when I realised that you see, my parents worked a lot and they didn't bother too much always, and they're much better nowadays. Well, my mum is still around. But then they were just like, oh, the attitude, you can sort it out yourself with your homework. So other kids came in with props and cue cards and big photos to show and things like that. But I just had this old Christmas card with them like ripped off because we didn't have any sheets of paper for some reason. And I'd written down a few points, and it was a presentation on global warming or something, and I didn't have any research. There wasn't the internet or anything. We didn't have any books on it, and so I just wrote down a few things I knew. But it was literally about 5 points, and I just perceived that would be enough, but it wasn't when I got to it.
Okay.
So.
All right, so this is interesting. So what I would normally do in a full session, which would normally be about an hour, is spend a bit of time sort of looking for the event that this has come from. It's possible that, because this is quite early in your life, age 9, so it's possible that there was something before this. But does it feel safe to you to go into this memory?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's ongoing circumstances which may have been before that.
Yeah. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start to do some rounds of tapping about it. Just pay attention to what you're thinking, that's all you have to do. And if you do start to feel upset, I mean, I'm used to people crying, and often people don't want to, but I usually say that it's a pot of gold. If you're tapping and you're crying at the same time, it's a supercharged release of emotion. But not everybody wants to do that, and not everybody needs to do that. So see how it goes.
I'll see. I don't cry too easily.
No. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you go to your karate chop point. So, but just before we start the affirmations, how much does this impact your life? So if you imagine like a scale of distress from 0 to 10, what number would you put this issue at? So in your current circumstances, not being able to go ahead and do the TV stuff or whatever it is that you want to do, feeling restricted in that way, what number would you be at for that?
Well, if I was to agree to do it, then I would definitely probably be about a 9 or a 10 literally, coming up to it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's quite high. All right. All right, so if you just repeat after me, we're going to just start tuning into that. So, even though I've got this issue, and it causes me a lot of distress,
and
I worry about being humiliated or embarrassed,
I
want to accept myself anyway. It's not wrong or bad to feel like this. I want to move forward in my life. And maybe this is holding me back. I worry about forgetting everything that I want to say. It feels like going blind or going deaf.
It feels like going blind or going deaf.
And I've always declined when I've been asked to do this.
And I've always declined when being asked to do this.
Speaking live in front of a group scares me.
Speaking live in front of a group scares me.
And I want to accept myself anyway.
And I want to accept myself anyway.
It's okay to have this issue.
It's okay to have this issue.
Even if it doesn't feel okay.
Even if it doesn't feel okay.
I want to know that it is.
I want to know that it is.
And even though I find it hard to stand up in front of others.
And even though I find it hard to stand up in front of others.
And I worry about not being prepared.
And I worry about not being prepared.
And I can feel all this emotion in my body.
And I can feel all this emotion in my body.
I want to accept and love myself the way I am.
I want to accept and love myself the way I am.
And it's okay to not be perfect.
And it's okay to not be perfect.
Okay, so if you go to your eyebrow point, all these emotions about this issue, it's okay to have them.
It's okay to have them.
And then the side of your eye, all these emotions about this restriction,
I
want to accept myself anyway.
I want to accept myself anyway.
All those ways that I feel. When I have to speak in front of a group. Out of my comfort zone. Under your nose. That feeling of humiliation.
That feeling of
embarrassment. I just want to avoid it. Under your mouth. I don't want to do it. It's like going blind or going deaf. That feeling of standing up in front of others. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be embarrassed. And I don't want to be humiliated. It's okay to have this problem. And I always decline. And I'm open to the idea. That I could have a go. And that I might feel different. And that I don't have to keep this problem forever. Okay, just have a deep breath. And then go back to that point again there. Okay, so when you were tapping then and saying all of that out loud, how did that feel for you?
A bit like I was there at first, and experiencing the emotion of what that would feel like. And I felt anxious, but then I felt a bit better when at the end we said that I might like to have a go. It's like it was replacing it.
Okay, alright. So you're already open to things being different to how they are, so that's perfect. So what I would normally do in a full session is keep going with a few rounds of this. Sometimes people will surface new realisations about the issue that they hadn't thought of before. So what we're going to do, I think, because you're already quite tuned in, I think we're going to start to focus on your body, because we can use our bodies as a kind of like a vehicle to get us to where we need to go. So in EFT, in order for it to be really effective and for there to be actual healing, we need to try and get to a core event. So
I think something's coming to me.
Okay. And what do you think that is?
Okay, so it's to do with humiliation again, and I think it brings up that I don't feel like I should speak, because I feel bad saying stuff about my mum. I hope my family doesn't watch this, but when my mum and my dad would have friends round, my mum would completely change, and I think maybe her parents did it to her, and it was the sort of children should be seen and not heard attitude.
Okay.
So they'd be sitting round the dining table having drinkies and everything and chatting with their friends. We're all nice people, but if I would appear in the room, Mum would just sort of turn to me and say, "What do you want?" like that, and just if I did literally need something like lunch, she would say things like, "Go away," or "Be quiet, go find something to do." And I never really got why she would do that in front of them at the time. I thought it was me and there's something wrong with me, so I'd avoid going near when their friends were there. But sometimes I'd literally need something because the dining room was attached to the kitchen and they were there all afternoon, like I need a drink and stuff.
Yeah, okay. So I can already see how often what comes up in EFT is like a reflection. So the current circumstances, so the presenting issue, once you get properly tuned in and then you look at the event that sort of pops into your head, it's kind of like a mirror. So what you just said there, you avoid going near. So that's kind of very similar to avoiding, getting involved with the TV thing that you've been asked to do. So there's the avoidance behaviour straight away. This is a very, very common pattern. This is like one of the most, most common patterns that comes up really with people. And also because there would have been guests sitting around the table.
They would look at me.
That's the audience thing coming at you.
They'd all stop talking and look at me, and some of them would like look down as if they didn't want to humiliate me. But they would all look. Sometimes they would speak to me, but Mum would dominate the interaction, and it would just be humiliating every time. But they did all stop and look.
Okay, so you say it was humiliating all the time, so this happened quite often?
Yeah, nearly every weekend, yeah.
Okay, alright. So do you, when you're thinking about this, obviously it happened a lot, is there sort of an age that you think this was at its peak, or when do you think this first started to happen?
Well, always, as long as I could remember, and it still went on until I was 18, 19. In fact, it still happens today, really. If I go visit my mother and she's sitting there with her friends, it's like she will enjoy. I will become the butt of the humiliation, of the joke, and she'll focus onto me and find something to criticise. Or, not every time. And she is a nice lady and well liked, but in front of her friends, she's just horrible. Oh God.
Okay, all right. So what I think we'll do, does the version of you, so if you think of all these things that have happened to you, if you think of all the other Nickies, so the younger Nikki, age 9, and the younger Nikki, age 5, and all of that, when you think about this problem, what age do you see yourself kind of?
Young, a little, maybe about 7, 8.
Okay, so this would be before you stood up in front of the class and had to do the demonstration, yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we'll focus on this because also as it's a pattern and not a one-off event, there's going to be a lot more energy stuck and trapped about that as well. Okay, so what I want you to do is, do you feel comfortable closing your eyes?
Yes.
And you don't have to, everybody's different. So if you close your eyes, just have a couple of deep breaths. And I want you to just tune into your body and just tune into that version of Nikki. So that little Nikki, age about 7. How is she feeling kind of in her body while that's happening?
Just everything's tense. I just want to shrink away, but I need something. I need lunch.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a feeling of not having needs met.
Yeah, and just being I hate to be there, and it just is making me cringe.
Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do, Normally when we're tapping, like we did at the beginning, we said even though I feel this, even though I feel that, we're going to say she, so we're going to tap for that version of Nikki.
Okay.
So in any kind of therapy, if you sort of imagine whatever the therapy is, mainstream or otherwise, we're all trying to do the same thing. So we're trying to retrieve our soul and like all the fragmented part of us that are out there. So we're going to try and bring that Nikki back in by dealing with the emotions that are stuck. So there'll be kind of layers of emotion, a bit like an onion, and sometimes you can't process all of the layers at once because there's only so much your subconscious can do. But we can have a little go and see what she's experiencing. And it is a very powerful thing to do, and you will feel a shift kind of around this. So
when I closed my eyes, I could feel it better.
Okay. All right, keep them closed. It's up to you. I can guide you through the points anyway.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just repeat after me. So there she is.
So there she is.
That younger Nikki.
That younger Nikki.
Little me.
Little me.
Age 7.
Age 7.
And everything feels tense.
And everything feels tense.
She doesn't feel like she should ask.
She doesn't feel like she should ask.
She doesn't feel like she should speak.
She doesn't feel like she should speak.
And she's feeling anxious.
She's feeling anxious.
Children should be seen and not heard.
Children should be seen and not heard.
And she's worried about what do you want?
She's worried about what do you want?
She's worried about go away.
She's worried about go away.
And she feels herself shrinking away.
And she feels herself shrinking away.
And she just wants to avoid going near.
And she just wants to avoid going near.
It was humiliating all the time when that happened.
It was humiliating all the time when that happened.
She's not having her needs met.
She's not having her needs met.
And she hates being there.
And she hates being there.
Everything feels tense.
Everything feels tense.
But she wants her lunch.
But she wants her lunch.
It makes her cringe.
It makes her cringe.
Feeling embarrassed and humiliated.
Feeling embarrassed and humiliated.
And I want to accept all her feelings.
And I want to accept all her feelings.
She's not wrong or bad to feel like this.
She's not wrong or bad to feel like this.
I want to accept her exactly the way she is.
I want to accept her exactly the way she is.
But that's hard to do.
But that's hard to do.
It's hard for her to accept herself.
It's hard for her to accept herself.
Because she doesn't feel acceptable.
That's true. Because she doesn't feel acceptable.
Because she's been asked to go away.
Because she's been asked to go away.
And I want to send her all this love and compassion.
And I want to send her all this love and compassion.
Because I know exactly how she feels.
Because I know exactly how she feels.
Okay, on your eyebrow, everything feels tense in her body.
Everything feels tense in her body.
She doesn't feel like she should speak.
She doesn't feel like she should speak.
Side of your eye. Mum and Dad would have all these friends round.
Mum and Dad would have all these friends round.
And Mum would change.
And Mum would change.
And she felt like she couldn't ask.
And she felt like she couldn't ask.
She couldn't ask for what she needed.
She couldn't ask for what she
Feelings
needed.
of humiliation.
All these feelings of humiliation.
All these feelings of embarrassment.
All these feelings of embarrassment.
Under your mouth. She can't ask for what she wants.
She can't ask for what she wants.
She doesn't feel like it's okay.
She doesn't feel like it's okay.
And everything feels tense.
And everything feels tense.
She wants to avoid going near.
She wants to avoid going near.
On your collarbone, she wants to avoid going near.
She wants to avoid going near.
But she's hungry.
But she's hungry.
And she wants her lunch.
And she wants her lunch.
And she feels awkward.
She feels awkward.
She feels anxious.
Feels anxious.
Under your arm, all these emotions.
All these emotions.
Hating being there.
Yeah, really hating being there.
Making her cringe.
Making her cringe.
Making her shrink away.
Making her shrink away.
And everything feels tense.
And everything feels tense.
Okay, on top of your head. Making her cringe.
Making her cringe.
Hating being there.
Hating being there.
Everything feels tense.
Everything feels tense.
She's shrinking away.
She's shrinking away.
And she wants to avoid going near.
And she wants to avoid going near.
Okay, just have a deep breath. And just go back to your central thymus point there.
God, you really feel like you're there, and it's like the emotions are coming out. I'm not always a big one for showing my emotions, but you definitely feel like you're there 100%, and I could see them looking at me and exactly what that felt like, and yeah.
And does that feeling, exactly what that felt like, feel the same as the feeling of wanting to be powerful and do this TV stuff and do what you want?
Yeah.
So follow your...
Because I feel ridiculous, like I felt in that situation, ridiculous. And in a way, when if I was to do that, and even sometimes when we have spiritual group, when the whole group is looking at me, I'm quite used to doing that now, and I feel better. But I feel like that little girl again, being ridiculous, that I have no right to speak, that I need to go away until all the people are gone.
Okay. All right. So I like all of that, what you just said there, feeling ridiculous, a little girl, no right to speak. Okay. So we're going to just go through a couple of layers of what's happening there. How are you feeling?
It's quite traumatic.
It's quite intense, isn't it? It's people are very surprised. But it's okay to experience intense emotion, and really all you've got to do is experience it, and then it's gone, like Carl Rogers said.
I see what's happening. This is a cleansing. It's the emotions coming out and experiencing them more and in a real way, because I'm processing them again with new perception. So it's good. It's like a cleansing, yeah.
And also, you said before, I'm not one to express my emotions. So maybe when you were a child, you weren't given the opportunity to express emotion as much as you needed to.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all of us across the board. So we need a revolution in parenting.
Right.
So it's because we weren't taught to process emotion that we are so stuck on stuff like this. Okay, so if you're comfortable, close your eyes again. Okay. And tune into that little one. And just go to your karate chop point again. And just repeat after me. So there she is.
So there she is.
That little girl.
That little girl.
With no right to speak.
With no right to speak.
Feeling ridiculous.
Feeling ridiculous.
She's got all these emotions.
She's got all these emotions.
And she's just pushing them down.
And she's just pushing them down.
Because she doesn't think it's okay to have them.
Because she doesn't think it's okay to have them.
But what if it was okay?
But what if it was okay?
I want her to be okay with having them.
I want her to be okay with having them.
I want to accept and love her the way she is.
I want to accept and love her the way she is.
Okay, if you just go to your eyebrow point. She's feeling ridiculous.
She's feeling ridiculous.
She feels like she's got no right to speak.
She feels like she's got no right to speak.
Side of your eye. It's not okay to have these emotions.
It's not okay to have these emotions.
She's just going to push them down.
She's just going to push them down.
And she's feeling ridiculous.
And she's feeling ridiculous.
And she's feeling humiliated.
And she's feeling humiliated.
Under your eye. This little girl.
This little girl.
And maybe sometimes I feel like that now.
And maybe sometimes I feel like that now.
Like a little girl.
Like a little girl.
With no right to speak.
With no right to speak.
Under your nose. She's feeling ridiculous.
She's feeling ridiculous.
She can't ask for what she needs.
She can't ask for what she needs.
And it's painful for her.
And it's painful for her.
Under your mouth. She doesn't think it's okay to have this emotion.
She doesn't think it's okay to have this emotion.
She hasn't got any right to speak.
She hasn't got any right to speak.
On your collarbone. She's feeling ridiculous.
She's feeling ridiculous.
And she's feeling humiliated.
And she's feeling humiliated.
She's just a little girl.
She's just a little girl.
And she feels like she's got no right to speak.
And she feels like she's got no right to speak.
Under your arm, all this humiliation.
All this humiliation.
And all this embarrassment.
And all this embarrassment.
Feeling ridiculous.
Feeling ridiculous.
It's a really painful feeling.
It's a really painful feeling.
On top of your head, all this remaining emotion.
All this remaining emotion.
That she thought she wasn't allowed to have.
That she thought she wasn't allowed to have.
I want her to know that she can have it.
I want her to know she can have it.
And that she isn't wrong or bad.
And that she isn't wrong or bad.
Okay, just have another deep breath. And then go back to that thymus point again. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we would normally work through layers of emotion. As one layer is acknowledged, often when you tune back into that little one, there's something else there. So that emotion, often you'll need to do a few rounds on it maybe, and then it'll change into something else.
Because already I felt one that I hadn't really felt before, which I didn't realise was there, was like how could you treat a little girl like that? Because I know that's sounds of angry, but I didn't realise that was there. Like, I mean, I was kind of aware that it was humiliating, of course, but underneath there, now I've just discovered, is that sort of how dare you thing.
Yes.
I think many people might say about this, like, in a way we're kind of repeating negative affirmations, and then they lead to a positive, but I see why. It's because we're trying to bring out an emotion and recognise what was and what still is, and feel it so that you can heal it and then correct it and uncover layers of emotions. Because I've heard that before. Is it repeating and programming the subconscious mind with negative affirmations? But I see that it's an uncovering. It's a bringing out. And then fixing.
So I think what's happening here is you've got the top layer of humiliation, and as soon as that's kind of tuned into and acknowledged and it's made okay, underneath that there's this kind of sense of injustice, which, like you say, is anger. You know, there's the anger. So underneath the anger there's often sadness. But, you know, there's other things as well. You know, there can be betrayal or, you know, all kinds of things. You know, resentment and blame and all of that. What we're going to do now is a technique where we kind of have an exchange of energy. So we're going to have you communicate with that little girl that was you. Does that feel safe to you to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and I would recommend closing your eyes for this as well.
Okay.
And this is often the most powerful part of the session, and people are often surprised. I don't know how it will feel for you, because obviously we haven't done an in-depth session kind of working through the layers, but I think it's always very touching to be communicating with your inner child.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to just get a sense of her in whatever way feels appropriate to you. So rather than be kind of inside her body, looking through her eyes, I want you to be kind of separate from her. Okay, and kind of to make it easier, sort of tune into what she might have been wearing, what she used to wear a lot at that age, and what her hairstyle might have been like, so that you're looking from an external perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so just imagine that all those people around the table and Mum's freeze framed, everyone there is frozen in time, and you've stepped into that picture as you are today. And I want you to just introduce yourself just with your mind. You don't have to say anything out loud, and just say to that little you, I'm you, all grown up, and I've come to help you with your feelings. I've learned a few things about life, and I want to show you how to feel better. So I'll just give you a little moment to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to ask her you know, I've been watching this situation. I've seen how you've been feeling. What do you need in order to fully let go of this issue? So in other words, what did you most need to hear at that time? And some people can see their little one doing something or saying something, or in whatever way it kind of happens for you is the right way.
Okay, I've got a response.
What does she think?
That I just want to be spoken to nicely.
Okay. So what's she saying to herself in that moment where she's feeling that humiliation? What is she making it mean about her? She just wants to be spoken to nicely. What's she saying to herself when she isn't spoken to nicely? This must mean that I'm...
A pain.
Okay.
And that I need to go away.
Okay. So... Sorry, I'm just making some notes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think she needs in order to let go of this feeling that she's a pain and she needs to go away? Because maybe you could suggest to her that she's always been perfect the way she is, and that it might not be anything to do with her, and that sometimes adults, even parents, you know, when we're little, we look at them as gods and we don't think that they can get anything wrong. So just make that suggestion to her, you know, what if mum's wrong? Or what if this is her issue and it doesn't mean anything about you? See if she can be open to accepting that idea.
Okay, so I might say that this is not your fault and that mum is acting up because maybe she had that done to her or something when she was a kid.
Yes, and that probably is the case. And it normally is, you know, a pattern, a family pattern that's passed on.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you could give her a gift that would help her to receive this energetically, so this kind of, you know, this is not your fault, this is not you. So sometimes people imagine this as a colour or as an object. So if you could give her a gift that could represent sort of getting her off the hook, you know, lifting that blame, that's you know, sort of making it part of her identity that she can't speak. If you could give her, this is not your fault, what would that look like?
Like, I know it sounds strange, but a kitten.
Ah, do you know, cats come up a lot in EFT. It did just the other day in a session. And I think it's because they just have unconditional love for you.
Yeah, and a new friend as well.
Yes.
My younger self in my visualization here is rather surprised to be having someone be so nice at that point in time.
Ah, okay. And people often say that. There's surprise there because this is not what normally happens. You know, this is different. Okay, so in whatever way seems appropriate to you, I want you to give her this kitten, this new friend, and all that unconditional love and all that play and everything that goes with a kitten. And I want you to give her that and help her know that this represents, this is not your fault, this is not you. And it's okay that you thought it was you, but it isn't. You know, give that to her and see how she receives it.
It feels like her self-esteem was right down, like complete worthlessness, and this is something exciting, and I am worthy of something nice, and someone being nice.
That's beautiful. And so you're already feeling a shift there. Okay, that's perfect. So let her just take that kitten on board and really feel that, all of what that represents. And she's thinking, wow, I must be worthwhile if I'm receiving this gift. So just look at her again and just ask her, what else do you need in order to fully let go of this issue? What needs can I meet for you to help you feel better?
Just to feel like being wanted, really.
Okay. So what would the colour of being wanted be? Or what would the object of being wanted?
Like something green.
Okay.
Like a green, I see a green stuffed frog teddy bear.
Okay.
Oh, I used to have one of them.
That's perfect then. Okay. So just have a little moment with her and give her this green stuffed frog, which represents that feeling of being wanted, which is so important for all of us when we're kids.
Okay.
And just let her really feel that somebody wants me. I'm wanted. I'm worthy. And just feel that feeling. It's beautiful.
It's nice. I feel happy.
Okay. So if you just tune into her again, is there anything else that we can do for her at this point in order to help her release these events?
I think it's okay now. It feels a lot better.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is kind of turn the tables, and now she's going to give you a gift. Do you feel like you could accept that from her if she had something for you? Okay. And I wonder what that would be. So if she had a gift for you that could help you profoundly with your current circumstances, so this block that you've been having with wanting to do this, becoming more public, be it this TV work, if she had something that could help you with that moving forward, what would that be?
I used to have a harmonica that I used to enjoy. I used to enjoy playing, but I don't have it anymore. So she's giving me that, and I think it's to clear out my lungs.
Oh, that's lovely. And do you know, people always say things like, oh, it feels strange, but oh, it's going to sound bonkers or whatever. But it never does to me, and it's always so personal and lovely, and it always means something. And sometimes people think at a later date they make connections about that thing, and it, sometimes it can explain other circumstances. So I want you to just receive that gift from her, and as you receive it, just feel your energy shift and know that things are going to be different from now on. And there's nothing to do, you don't have to try. Your subconscious mind just knows how to do this stuff. Just like it beats our heart all day long and digests our food, we don't have to consciously work at it. So just receive this gift that can help you with your current circumstances. And we're just going to finish with a final round of tapping. So you can open your eyes. If you go back to your karate chop point and just repeat after me. I'm beginning to have a sense.
I'm beginning to have a sense
of receiving this gift.
Of receiving this gift.
And I feel reassured.
And I feel reassured.
That whatever it is.
That whatever it is.
And whatever it means.
and whatever it means
will be for my highest good.
Will be for my highest good.
And I'm beginning to receive that now in a way that's right for me.
And I'm beginning to receive that now in a way that's right for me.
And then just go to your eyebrow point. And I'm beginning to sense whatever that is.
And I'm beginning to sense whatever that is.
Side of your eye, in the most wonderful way.
In the most wonderful way.
Perfect for me.
Perfect for me.
And I'm taking that on board.
And I'm taking that on board.
However it is appropriate.
However it is appropriate.
Under your eye. Perfect for me.
Perfect for me.
Under your nose. And maybe
I
might be pleasantly surprised.
I might be pleasantly surprised.
Under your mouth. I might be pleasantly surprised.
I might be pleasantly surprised
That my subconscious mind might continue to work on this.
Might continue to work on this.
In a very safe and healthy way.
In a very safe and healthy way.
Perfect for me.
Perfect for me.
Under your arm. And when it has done that,
I
might notice that I'm feeling different.
I might notice that I'm feeling different.
Top of your head. And I wonder where I'll be.
And I wonder where I'll be.
When I realise that I'm feeling different.
When I realise that I'm feeling different.
When I think about that issue.
When I think about that issue.
And I wonder what I'll say.
And I wonder what I'll say.
And I wonder where I'll be.
And I wonder where I'll be.
Okay, just have a deep breath. Okay, so after you've had EFT, normally most people say up to about 3 days afterwards you might experience some negative emotion shifting. Sometimes people think, oh gosh, it hasn't worked and I feel worse than I did before, but there is often a period of things moving through. So if you do feel more negative than normal, just look at it and think something good's happening. That's the best way to deal with it. But normally after 3 days your energy is settled and then you kind of know where you are.
That's exactly what I say to my clients, is to give it a few days, because once you turn things over they need to settle again.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. And I would recommend tapping by yourself. I mean, there's lots of free stuff out there because EFTers are normally philanthropists. There's a lot of people on YouTube. There's a lot of books, e-books out there that you don't have to pay for. And you can just learn how to use the techniques yourself. I mean, I go about my life now. I tap on the bus. I tap walking down the road. Even if and people worry and say, oh, I can't tap by myself because I worry about saying the wrong thing. But if it's coming from you, it's the right thing to say, and you just follow your thoughts really, because it kind of guides you. And if you're tapping, it's bringing your stress cortisol down into a healing state. So the more you're in a healing state, the less issues you have.
It's really fantastic. I really feel like I've got some emotions out there. I may not have been outwardly expressing it too much, but I was definitely in some. And I felt like I was able to just re-examine some things and put a new light on them, especially with the healing visualization. I actually felt like I was giving those things and giving them back, and they had such profound meaning to them. So that's definitely put a new perception on those memories. But thank you so much, Jenny. It's been really, really nice. Thank you so much indeed. And as I say, if you want to book an online session with Jenny, you can go to her website. The link is in the description, and she does Skype and FaceTime as well. So you can book with her anytime. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and you found out more about tapping, and maybe if it's something you're interested in, have a look at Jenny's website. So thanks again, Jenny.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.